All right, first off, I want to start this video. First off, I want to say Daniel Kaluuya. All right, great actor. He absolutely embodied Fred Hampton. Just based on his speeches, his mannerisms, everything. He was incredible, incredible actor. In fact, one of the greatest performances I've ever seen of a historical figure, of a black historical figure, ever on film, without question. Very memorable. That's the first thing I want to say. Now, getting to my critique of the film, I was a little disappointed in the film. And I want to say that because I feel like I watched 2 hours of a film on Fred Hampton, and I still don't know the man. I don't know about his life. What made Fred Hampton Fred Hampton? You understand? You're talking about a man who was a prodigy, a prodigy in every sense of the word. Maybe not a technical prodigy, but a human prodigy in a sense, like a man who could move mountains of people. I mean, he had the entire city of Chicago on his back, based on what he wanted to achieve. He had the entire all the way to Washington D.C. I mean, he was that impactful and that legendary. I mean, there's a man that was a living legend before he was even 20 years old. I wanted to know about the backstory. What made him a prodigy? What made Fred Hampton Fred Hampton? One of my favorite films of all time is Malcolm X. And the reason why is because it told the story of the life, the motivation, the inspiration. Like Spike Lee got into the man, the myth, the legend. What made Malcolm X tick? And it made you, by the end of the movie, care about that man all over again. See, like with Fred Hampton, I feel like they told more about his death than his life. What made him ultimately one of the most memorable figures of the 20th century, as far as I'm concerned. Um, what made Fred Hampton Fred Hampton? One of the most memorable of scenes in the Malcolm X movie was when Malcolm X was a kid and he was telling the teacher, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. And the teacher told him, the white teacher told him, that's no realistic job for a nigger. And he used the ER word. There's no realistic job for a nigger. You know, that planted the seed of defiance. That planted the seed of rebellion in Malcolm X. What planted that seed in Fred Hampton that made him so courageous, so charismatic, so powerful in every sense of the word? I mean, this was an incredible figure who had the ability to not only connect with the people of his community, but he had the courage and the fortitude and integrity and the charisma to unite people from all different walks of life. You're talking from the rednecks to the Hispanics to everybody that you can name, and in between, they loved and admired this man. Why didn't we know more about that story? I don't care about the rat. I don't care about the Judas. I don't care about him. You understand? Whatever he did to do what he did, there's no justification for it. They tried to humanize him and make him a human and make him a sympathetic character. But ultimately, he was a rat and he caused a lot of death. Okay? And he was he was pivotal in causing the death of the revolution in from a black panther perspective. Now the revolution is continuing because Fred Hampton's spirit still lives. However, not in the way that it could have been had he accomplished all his goals. Okay, so I was not so much worried about the Judas the rat. I mean, I didn't need to know his story. I didn't need him to be so humanized. And I know it was a platform for Lakeith Stanfield to show his incredible acting ability. And he, again, very talented actor. Two very talented actors, but I think Daniel Kaluuya was really a force in nature. I mean, the way he came across in film and the way he showed a range of acting from being able to be, those quiet, tender moments with his woman, and then being able to be that fiery presence on stage. And he was just, I mean, he really embodied the spirit of Fred Hampton. It was absolutely incredible, but the story is what I have a problem with, because I needed to know more about the human. See, because when other folks tell the stories of their figures, their mythic heroes, and ultimately that's what he is. Fred Hampton is an ancestor and he's a mythic hero in the Black culture. They honor them by telling their whole story. You see, because, and this is a spoiler alert, you see, because when the film started, and the first time we saw Fred Hampton, he was already a living legend. He was already pretty much Fred Hampton and had a small army at his back. He was already the guy. You know, what made the guy the guy? You see, because that's what the youth and the next generation need to see. The young folks looking up to and looking back and wanting to know their heroes and being able to identify with those people that were great in the past. They need to know they had an opportunity, had a platform to show the world who Fred Hampton was in telling his story, his backstory, and his life, and his childhood, and those trials and tribulations, and the conflicts and the victories that made him ultimately one of the greatest grassroots leaders of the 20th century, even at the age of 21. Now, had he been able to live on to 30, 35, who knows what Fred Hampton would have been able to do, because he had a natural presence about him. There was no faking, there was no facade. This is what it is. I mean, I remember still seeing a video of Fred Hampton um, in a courtroom um, uh, uh, defending himself in a court of law and winning. You know, this is how absolutely impressive this guy was, and I don't think they told his story enough. Just the movie picking up in pretty much the last year of his life, it's not enough. You had 2 hours, you know, whether it be flashbacks, whether it be pivotal scenes. You didn't have to do too much. It could be a 5-minute scene or two here and there, like little flashbacks, just to tell us more. Give me more of Fred Hampton. And that's what disappointed me in that film. Now, outside of that, the acting was incredible. I think everybody did a great job. Everybody was pretty much flawless. But what was wrong with the film, to me, was the writing and the storyline. If you're going to tell our heroes, if you're going to tell the story of our heroes, you have a responsibility to tell them the whole story. I don't need to know about the rat. I don't need to know about J. Edgar Hoover. That's well documented. We know that the government had a hand in his assassination, and they could have told that, within the story, regardless. But just cut that a little bit, and let's get into the prodigy, the man, the myth, the legend, the chairman, Fred Hampton. Rest in peace. Peace.